Okay, well, thank you for coming to the very first lesson of Learn How to Read Music. This is a very, um, basic sort of step by step going through the basics and learning the fundamentals before we move on to the next. So this could be something that you're already familiar with, but we're just going to cover, start at step one and work our way through. Let's see where to start. I'm going to share into I'm not usually uh, at my piano when I'm on a Zoom call. This is new for me. I'm usually at my desk and I know everything. I've got myself all sorted and I know where everything is, and so I'm just getting used to doing it all from my piano. I've just shared a link in the chat box, which is it's just like a quick little sort of sheet. Actually, I'll share it so that you can all see. Uh, just a really quick one-pager about lesson one, which is about the keys or the musical alphabet, to be more specific. The musical alphabet. So all of the notes that you see on a piano score have a name. There is a musical alphabet that runs in a pattern for the entire piano keyboard. Now, a full-size piano keyboard has 88 white and black keys on the piano. Um, and the black keys are in sets of two that run between C and E. And then there's a set of three that runs between F and B. And then there's a gap in the middle between B and C and E and F where there's no black keys. But we're going to learn about the black keys later on. This lesson is just all about the white keys. There's 7 white keys. It's an alphabet that runs, it technically starts at A, like our alphabet, but we really start at C. C is the starting point. So I call it, starting at C, and we go C, D, E, F, G, and that's when we go back to the A to go A, B, and then C. And that repeats over and over in a set. And a set is called an octave, oct meaning 8, even though there's 7 notes, but it's 8 notes if you go from one C to the next C. Then here in this one, we have the entire keyboard and how it relates to the notes that you see on the musical staff. We're going to go into this in more detail in further lessons. But with this one, we start at AO, and so because the notes repeat over and over again each octave, so that you can know exactly which note you're talking about, you've got the note name and then a number. So AO is right at the very end, at the bottom, and I'll see if this works. I'm going to join the meeting from my phone as well, so I can have 2 cameras going. I may screw it up. It may be really bad. No, what I need to do is still looking at me. All right, fine. There we go. All right, can you see? That's A, O, B-O, and then we start at C1. Now we're at C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, and then right at the very top is C8. I think it's easier if I just leave it with just the laptop camera. But what we're learning here is just getting an understanding of that alphabet of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Um, and just trying to think if we look a little more closely at this, but perhaps, sorry, when I prepared the lessons, I was thinking, oh well, we're going to just go bit by bit. But I think that we have enough time and this is a concept that's easy enough to understand, that the note names and all the musical alphabet. So we can have a look at where they're placed on the musical staff. So this is a treble clef. This is a bass clef. Middle C, which is it's the C that's actually I'll show you on the photo here. See where there's like the lock on the piano. It's the C that's closest to that one. That's middle C because it's in the middle of the keyboard. Then we have these 5 lines of the treble clef and then 5 lines of the bass clef. And the middle C on each of them is either just below or just above. So it's just below the treble clef or just above the bass clef. That's the same note. So that's C. And that's really the, yeah, that is the essence of what, like, I guess the first thing that you need to understand to be able to read music. And so as you continue to learn music, you would then look at these notes and be able to recognize which one, which is which. I like with this diagram how they've got it color coded, so you can see that the D repeats each time and what the D looks like each time. And the C is obviously the white one. Now we've got a the next thing to learn, once we've really understood that the notes have, this alphabet that just repeats over and over again, is recognizing how to read them on the piano, but then also on the musical staff. And so what I'll do is I'll prepare a um, a visual thing that you can refer to afterwards, and I'll email it out to everyone so you can see it. But if we look at the musical staff, tell me if that is okay to see. There's a way that you can memorize the notes on the staff without having to, count each one, and that is by having there's a rhyme that you can apply to both the lines and the spaces. And so the lines, so we start at the E here, the bottom line, and then it ends here on the top line of that F. And so we've got E, and then the next line is G, the next line is B, the next line is D, and then the top line is F. And so when you put them together, you can create, and it makes an acronym, which is easy to remember just by remembering that every good boy deserves fruit. There's a couple of other variations that I've heard along the way, but I was taught when I was a kid that every good boy deserves fruit, and that is how you can remember in the treble clef what note it is when it's on the line. Now the spaces, which goes from F, A, C, E, the spaces, when you put them together, that just spells face. So the lines and the spaces of the treble clef is every good boy deserves fruit for the lines, and then FACE for the spaces. When we come down below the bottom line, there's your D, and then you've got a little short line at the middle C. And so when you're going below the staff of the treble clef or the bass clef, when you're going below or above, you just add in a little short line to go through to be able to see whether it's on a line, or you see this one is on a space because it's below the line, and that note is below the line. And then we go down another step, and so that's on the second lower line. So you can see there's a little line there going through the note, and then a line above it. So that first line is C, and then we step down to B, then you step down to A. Same thing again on the bass clef. We've got this short line going through at the top of the bass clef above it, and so that's your C. And then we've got the space above it, and that's D. And then the next line above that, so you can see you've got a line where the C is, and then a next line going through the note, and so that's an E. Are there any questions so far? Is there anything that I haven't explained? Now I know Serene, who's on Elam's phone, she's just got she's listening as she's doing something else. But Henny, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. And then for everyone else, you can send me an email or a message or something if you're watching this later on. With this being the first lesson, I was absolutely trying to figure out, okay, well, how much do I put into this first lesson? I didn't want to, go too much and cram too much into a lesson, but I think I've gone too far the other direction, and there's a lot of space here where I probably could have shown a bit more. So we've got the lines and spaces of the treble clef. Let's maybe look at the lines and spaces of the bass clef. So the bass clef is essentially what you would play with your left hand if you're playing the piano. If you're singing, it's for the male voices. So in music that we have, like say when we're singing at church, we've got the soprano, the alto, the tenor, and the bass. Soprano and alto are the women's voices. Soprano is the highest, the alto is the lower voice. And then in the men's, you've got the tenor, which is the higher men's voice, and then the bass is the lower men's voice. On these lines of the bass clef, we start at here with G, and then you've got B, and then you've got D, you've got F, and you've got A. So you can see it's kind of similar to the treble clef. The treble clef, has that same pattern of the G and the B and the D, but it started on E, whereas this one it's starting on G and it's going through till A. So it's a similar rhyme, not to be confused, but it's the G, B, D, F, A. The rhyme is good boys deserve fruit always. Um, and then the spaces starting at A, and then we've got C, then we've got E, and then we've got G. I've just got a complete mental blank just then. I hadn't prepared that, but A, all, that's what it is. All cows eat grass. So A, C, E, G. In the bass clef, all cows eat grass. That's the spaces. So if you're looking at a musical score and you've got, notes in the lines or the spaces, you can use that little rhyme to quickly sort of figure out what note it is. And if it's above or below the staff, then what you can do is, understand that this first one is C, or the one just above it in the bass clef is C, and you can just count your way from there, following that pattern of C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So, there's a whole lot more here that we're going to cover in further lessons. The thing that you need to understand first is just that the notes all have names. There's the alphabet. It continues over and over in an octave from, note to note, C to C, D to D, E to E, and so on. And all of the notes that have a name are all white notes. The black notes are related to each of the white notes. That they don't have a name of their own. They're named in relation to the white note that they are next to. But we'll talk about that later. And that's pretty much it for this first one. I will be preparing something for next week that's perhaps a little more you know in depth and not quite so keeping it so light. I've gone the other extreme to what I was afraid of doing, so I apologize for that. We're going to leave it at that for now, and pick it up again next week. And so if you have any questions in between, what you can do in between is I will share this document so that you can, have that visual in front of you and you can refer it. If you have a keyboard at home, you can put it up there and just become familiar with the notes, where they are and how they repeat and everything, and just get more familiar with seeing them and recognizing them. And we will pick it up from there next week. So thanks very much. All right.